Before Ronda Rousey ever put on a pair of 4-ounce gloves, before the UFC ever allowed women to step foot inside the octagon, and long before female fighters were signing million-dollar endorsement deals, the entire survival of women's mixed martial arts rested on the shoulders of a single, devastatingly beautiful striker. In the mid-2000s, combat sport bloodbath, women fighting in a cage, was widely viewed by the mainstream media as a grotesque sideshow, a brutal spectacle that promoters actively hid in the dark corners of underground casinos. And then, everything changed. A woman walked into the spotlight who looked like a Hollywood movie star, possessing a charismatic, girl-next-door smile and a stunning physique that instantly landed her on the cover of Maxim magazine. The mainstream media took one look at her and assumed she was just a pretty face being used to sell tickets to a barbaric sport. But the moment the cage door locked, the sweet smile vanished, replaced by the cold, calculated stare of an absolute assassin. She didn't just beat her opponents, she dismantled them with a terrifying, bone-crushing Muay Thai arsenal that left seasoned veterans completely unconscious on the canvas. Gina Carano was dubbed the face of women's MMA, an absolute pioneer who weaponized her unprecedented beauty to force the entire world to pay attention to her violence. She was the undeniable blueprint, the trailblazer who walked through absolute hellfire so that every female fighter who came after her could run. To understand the sheer magnitude of her impact and the horrifying reality of what she had to endure to legitimize an entire sport, you have to look past the Hollywood movie posters and travel back to the sweaty, blood-stained mats where the legend of conviction was truly born. Her story does not begin with a lifelong dedication to martial arts or a childhood spent dreaming of championship belts. Born in Dallas County, Texas, in the spring of 1982 and raised in the blinding neon glow of Las Vegas, Nevada, Gina was an athlete long before she was a fighter. The daughter of Glenn Carano, a former backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, she inherited elite athletic genetics. She was a standout high school basketball player, leading her team to a state title, and a fiercely competitive softball player. But as she entered her early 20s, the structured world of team sports faded away, leaving her adrift. She was searching for a purpose, completely unaware that her destiny lay in the most violent sport on the planet. Her introduction to combat was almost accidental. She started dating a professional Muay Thai fighter named Kevin Ross. Watching him train, watching the sheer, primal physical output required to strike another human being with your shins and elbows sparked something deep and dormant inside of her. She decided to step onto the mats, originally just to lose a little weight and get back into shape. She walked into the legendary Master Toddy's gym in Las Vegas, a grueling, old-school Muay Thai academy that did not cater to casual hobbyists. The moment she started hitting the pads, the trainers immediately realized they were looking at a prodigy. She possessed heavy, natural power in her hips and a frighteningly fast learning curve. While most women with her striking looks would have taken a few cardio kickboxing classes and left it at that, Gina was addicted to the physical suffering. She completely immersed herself in the absolute brutality of the art of 8 limbs. Master Toddy saw the raw, terrifying potential in the Vegas girl and threw her directly into the deep end. She wasn't fighting in glamorous arenas, she was fighting in the gritty, underground smokers and raw Muay Thai rings in Thailand. These were untelevised, unregulated wars in the blistering heat, bone-on-bone collisions where you were paid practically nothing and expected to leave parts of yourself in the ring. She amassed a stellar Muay Thai record of 12 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. She was dropping highly experienced Thai fighters, utilizing a devastating right cross and blistering leg kicks. She was proving to the purists that the beautiful American girl wasn't a tourist. She was a genuine, terrifyingly effective predator. Her transition to mixed martial arts was the natural next step, but it was a step into the complete unknown. In 2006, women's MMA was a lawless wasteland. There were very few promotions willing to book women, and the pay was absolutely abysmal. But a promotion called World Extreme Fighting decided to give her a shot at WEF 14 in Las Vegas. In June 2006, Gina made her professional MMA debut against Letitia Pestova. The crowd didn't know what to expect. They saw the beautiful, soft-spoken girl walked to the cage and likely anticipated a sloppy, amateurish grappling match. The bell rang, and Gina completely shattered the illusion in exactly 38 seconds. She stalked Pestova, trapped her against the cage, and unleashed a horrifying barrage of heavy punches and elbows. She dragged her opponent to the canvas and battered her into total unconsciousness from the mount. It was a vicious, violent execution that instantly sent shockwaves through the regional circuit. She wasn't just a striker anymore. She was adapting to the cage with terrifying efficiency. Just 3 months later, she stepped up to face Rosie Sexton, a highly respected, battle-tested pioneer of the sport at World Pro Fighting Championships. This was supposed to be the fight that exposed Gina as a one-dimensional rookie. Instead, in the second round, Gina landed a booming, devastating right hand that completely shut off Sexton's lights, leaving the veteran flat on her back. The MMA world was officially on notice. The promoters realized they had an absolute goldmine on their hands. A fighter with the face of a supermodel and the heavy hands of a seasoned knockout artist. In February 2007, the sport of mixed martial arts reached a massive, historic turning point. Elite XC, a rapidly growing promotion aiming to challenge the UFC's dominance, booked Gina Carano to fight Julie Kedzie on Showtime. This was the very first time a women's MMA fight would be broadcast on premium cable television. The pressure on Gina's shoulders was absolutely unfathomable. She wasn't just fighting for a paycheck, she was fighting for the entire existence of women's combat sports. If the fight was boring, if it looked sloppy, the executives would permanently pull the plug, and women's MMA would be thrown back into the dark ages. But Gina and Julie Kedzie delivered an absolute masterpiece of violence. From the opening bell, the two women met in the center of the cage and engaged in a 3-round, high-octane bloodbath. Kedzie, a highly technical and durable fighter, threw spinning back kicks and aggressive combinations, but Gina's Muay Thai was beautifully violent. She marched through the fire, landing heavy, thudding leg kicks that echoed through the arena. In the second round, Gina landed a vicious front kick straight to Kedzie's jaw that dropped her, followed by a frantic scrambling sequence on the ground. The crowd in Mississippi went absolutely deafening. They were on their feet, completely mesmerized by the sheer heart and technical brilliance of the two women. Gina won a unanimous decision, but the true victory belonged to the sport itself. The executives were stunned. The ratings skyrocketed. Joe Rogan, watching from afar, would later state that this specific fight completely opened his eyes to the reality that women could fight just as fiercely, if not more so, than the men. Gina Carano had officially kicked the door down. Overnight, her life completely exploded into a whirlwind of mainstream chaos. She was suddenly the most sought-after female athlete in the world. She was cast as Crush on the reboot of the hit television show American Gladiators, utilizing her stunning physique and athletic prowess to become a massive television star. She was doing photo shoots for Maxim and ESPN the magazine, appearing on talk shows and walking red carpets. The media dubbed her the face of women's MMA, completely obsessed with the stark juxtaposition of her glamorous public persona and her brutally violent day job. But behind the closed doors of her training camp, the pressure was slowly becoming a suffocating weight. Every time she fought, she had thousands of critics waiting for her to fail. The hardcore MMA purists hated that a beautiful woman was getting so much attention, constantly claiming she was just a product of marketing and not a real fighter. In September 2007, she faced Tanya Evinger, a gritty, hard-nosed, heavily experienced wrestler who absolutely despised the hype surrounding Gina. Evinger's entire game plan was to drag the pretty girl to the canvas, rough her up, and expose her lack of grappling. In the first round, Evinger did exactly that, securing a takedown and putting Gina on her back. The haters rejoiced, assuming the hype train was finally derailing. But Gina remained incredibly composed. She weathered the storm, framing off and surviving the round. In the second round, the moment the fight hit the mat again, Gina showed the world that she had been quietly evolving her ground game. With stunning fluidity, she transitioned, took Evinger's back, sunk her hooks in, and locked a completely inescapable rear-naked choke right under the wrestler's chin. Evinger was forced to tap. It was a massive, emphatic statement. Gina had just submitted a highly touted grappler at her own game. She was not a one-trick pony. Then came the true network television breakthrough. In May 2008, Elite XC secured a deal with CBS, putting mixed martial arts on primetime network television for the first time in history. Gina was slated to fight Caitlin Young, a devastating striker in her own right, but the agonizing reality of the sport reared its ugly head. Gina missed weight by 4.5 pounds. The media ruthlessly attacked her, claiming her Hollywood lifestyle was distracting her from her training. She agreed to forfeit a massive portion of her purse just to keep the fight alive, stepping into the cage with the absolute weight of the world on her shoulders. The bell rang, and Gina fought with a terrifying, pent-up aggression. She completely dismantled Young. She landed blistering inside leg kicks, heavy right hands, and beautifully timed knees. By the end of the second round, Young's face was a battered, swollen mess, completely unrecognizable. The ringside doctor stepped in and mercifully stopped the fight between rounds. Gina had just violently finished a top-tier striker in front of millions of people on national television, proving once again that her beauty was merely a terrifying disguise for her absolute ferocity. But the most grueling, physically demanding test of her sheer toughness came in October 2008 against Kelly Cobold. The weight-cutting issues had become a massive narrative. The media was hounding her, questioning her discipline. At the weigh-ins, the tension was suffocating. Gina had to strip completely naked, standing behind a makeshift towel held up by officials, completely dehydrated and physically drained, just to hit the 141-pound mark. The crowd held its breath until the commissioner yelled the official weight. She made it, but the physical toll of the brutal weight cut left her severely compromised. Cobold, a gritty, durable brawler, intended to capitalize on Gina's weakened state. When the fight started, Cobold immediately closed the distance, pressing Gina against the chain-link fence, turning the fight into a grueling, exhausting clinch war. Cobold was throwing heavy knees, trying to drain the last remaining ounces of energy from the superstar. For 2 entire rounds, it was an absolute dogfight. It was ugly, it was bloody, and it was a true test of pure willpower. But in the third round, running on nothing but pure adrenaline and a psychotic refusal to lose, Gina found her absolute separation. She unleashed her world-class Muay Thai. She threw a blistering combination, culminating in a heavy, slicing head kick that landed flush, followed by a devastating right hand that opened a massive, gushing gash directly over Cobold's eye. Blood poured down Cobold's face, staining her chest and the canvas. Gina poured on the pressure, landing vicious strikes until the final bell sounded. She won a unanimous decision, completely exhausted, completely battered, but having proven an undeniable, unbreakable toughness. She had survived the absolute deepest waters of the sport. With an undefeated record of 7 wins and 0 losses, Gina Carano had single-handedly carried women's MMA to the absolute pinnacle of the combat sports mountain. She had generated millions of viewers, graced the covers of magazines, and forced the entire world to respect the violence of women. But there was one final terrifying mountain left to climb. The promotion Strikeforce had acquired Elite XC's assets, and they decided to do the unthinkable. They booked the first ever major MMA event headlined entirely by a women's championship fight. On August 15, 2009, in San Jose, California, Gina Carano was set to fight for the inaugural Strikeforce Women's Lightweight Championship against a fighter who was widely considered the most terrifying, violent woman on the face of the earth, Cris Cyborg Santos. Cyborg was an absolute monster. She was a heavily muscled, terrifyingly aggressive Brazilian shoot box academy product who fought with a sheer, unadulterated savagery that had never been seen before. She didn't just beat her opponents, she violently traumatized them. The narrative was perfectly cinematic. The beautiful, heroic face of women's MMA stepping into the cage against an unstoppable, terrifying Terminator. The arena was absolutely sold out, packed to the rafters, and the pay-per-view numbers were through the roof. When Gina walked to the cage, she smiled her trademark smile, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. This was the absolute peak of the sport. The bell rang, and what followed was the most chaotic, terrifying 5 minutes in the history of women's fighting. Cyborg immediately rushed across the cage like a wild animal, throwing massive, looping, concussive hooks. Gina didn't back down. She planted her feet and fired back. The two women traded horrifying, skull-rattling shots right in the center of the cage. Gina landed a clean, heavy, straight right hand that actually dropped Cyborg to the canvas in the opening minute. The crowd absolutely erupted, believing the Cinderella story story was coming true. Gina followed her to the ground, taking the top position, but Cyborg's sheer physical strength was overwhelming. Cyborg powered out, got back to her feet, and initiated an absolutely ruthless clinch. For the next 3 minutes, Gina absorbed horrifying punishment. Cyborg backed her against the cage and unloaded a barrage of heavy knees and punches. Gina was fighting entirely on survival instinct, trying desperately to find space to utilize her Muay Thai. But the Brazilian's forward pressure was completely suffocating. With only 10 seconds left in the very first round, Cyborg landed a devastating right hand that sent Gina crashing to the mat. Cyborg pounced, unleashing a brutal, merciless barrage of hammer fists and heavy ground and pound. Gina was trapped, completely overwhelmed by the sheer, terrifying power of the Brazilian. The referee mercifully dove in and stopped the fight with just 1 single second remaining on the clock in the first round. Gina Carano sat on the canvas, her face bruised, her undefeated record shattered, and the championship belt wrapped around the waist of her terrifying opponent. The haters and the critics immediately came out of the woodwork, claiming she was finally exposed, claiming that her Hollywood looks couldn't save her from a real fighter, but they were entirely, fundamentally wrong. On that night in San Jose, Gina Carano didn't just lose a fight, she successfully passed the torch. She had just headlined a massive, sold-out arena and generated unprecedented television ratings. She proved to the executives, to the sponsors, and to UFC President Dana White that millions of people would eagerly pay their hard-earned money to watch 2 women fight in a main event. She had successfully completed her mission. Following the bout with Cyborg, the offers from Hollywood came pouring in. Legendary director Steven Soderbergh had seen her fight and specifically crafted the action thriller Haywire entirely around her legitimate fighting skills. She transitioned to the silver screen, leaving the brutal, unforgiving world of the cage behind to star in massive blockbuster franchises like Fast and Furious, Deadpool, and The Mandalorian. She traded the blood-stained canvas for the red carpet permanently, but her legacy in the cage remains absolutely immortal. Several years later, when an undefeated Olympic judoka named Ronda Rousey was tearing through the UFC, breaking arms and becoming the biggest global superstar in the history of the sport, Rousey explicitly stated in interviews that she only started fighting because she saw Gina Carano fight Julie Kedzie on television. Gina was the genesis. She was the spark that ignited the entire revolution. She endured the brutal weight cuts, the archaic sexism, the underground smokers in Thailand, and the terrifying concussive blows of the most dangerous women on earth, all while maintaining a smile that completely hypnotized the mainstream media. Gina Carano weaponized her beauty to force the world to look, and then she used her fists to force the world to respect the violence. She was the original, undeniable queen of the cage, the ultimate pioneer who proved that the most glamorous, eye-catching woman in the room could also be the most dangerous, terrifying predator on the planet.